We've come full circle. The first video to really do anything on my channel was me whining about the meta, and I'm returning to my channel to whine some more. But whining was half of my videos anyway, but it's justified this time. Yeah, where the hell have I been? Look, I got a channel post explaining more of that if you care. If you don't, then whatever. Let's talk about the current meta and once again my hot and cold feelings on it. Originally, this comeback video was gonna be a lot more negative, but as the meta has settled recently, I took a good look in the mirror and I said, damn, you ugly. But then I said, actually, the meta's not that bad. But we're still going assault mode on him, if you know what I mean. I'ma rip the band-aid off and the Latia's anime goggles off, because while Neos Yubel is conceptually a cool deck with based written all over it. Oh, dude, you're using Yubel and Wise Men. Those are bad cards. It's so based. But really, it's not. And it has nothing to do with the individual cards being run in it. But as most of you probably expected, this will be a scathing rant about Eternal Bond and the greater problem it represents in Duel Links. This skill is bullshit. And just so we're getting it out of the way, no, this deck is not that dominant in power level, and while certainly dominant in representation, it has its weaknesses and it's not even the strongest deck in the game right now. But that doesn't mean there isn't a problem here. Issue number one, Eternal Bond is ridiculous. It has no cost for 2 bonkers abilities and has 4 abilities altogether. The only requirement for the 2 crazy ones is to normal summon Neos or Yubel, and the skill allows you to do that without tributes. Then you're allowed to search Super Polymerization, one of the strongest, if not the strongest spell card in the game just based on sheer power, or it will literally just apparate Miracle Contact into your hand like God came down to hand deliver it to you. Very strong archetypal fusion spell that is essential for what the deck is doing, and they just Thanos snap it there, I guess. I don't think there's any upgrade to consistency quite like just making cards appear in the player's hand for no cost. Not to mention, the skill does 2 other things as well, believe it or not. It can, once again, apparate out of thin air Yubel Terror Incarnate and Ultimate Nightmare, but onto the field this time. And it can also search Neos if need be. Eternal Bond is Duel Links' version of those Geometry Dash levels that play themselves. And the only way to lose them is to, try and manually do anything. We thought Automata play was bad in the past for giving Automat 100% consistency, but Eternal Bond ascends beyond the word consistent. If you need Miracle Contact or Super Poly, you can just have it. Ironically, a card great for going first and one great for going second. And of course it all works and is worth it because what you're building into is very strong. Kluger is a great and oppressive boss monster. Neos Fusion is crazy. Wise Man is crazy and is so easy to summon and should have had his effect damage nerfed like every other card in the game the second Kluger got his invite to Duel Links, but nah. It has room for staples including a copy or 2 of the OP Limit 3 Trap Gang, because Konami decided Neos Fusion was cool to come off. Was it actually? No, absolutely not. But we need to sell more Kluger, damn it. Fundamentally, I hate everything about this, and it's the perfect martyr for OP skills that are just the deck itself. Look at one of these builds. Play this without the skill and see how well it works for you. The reason such a terribly assembled mess of cards like this can hit King of Games faster than Yusei and Top Deck Junk Synchron is because the game fucking says so. Not fun or engaging to go against. I can't imagine it's very fun to play unless you find those Geometry Dash levels fun where you're incentivized to eat a bowl of cereal while playing it. It doesn't feel like a real challenge. It's just you either have the matchup or you don't. If you like it, that's fine. Play it, do whatever you want. But I think it's dumb. Live Twins. Like, I'll be the first person to tell you this deck is a tumor, but I still kind of like it, and I've done my fair share of playing it. Look, my taste usually comes down to the dumbest shit, like, cool birds, and Dante's Inferno lore, just like that game. Or, man, the symmetry of this deck is really pleasing to my obsessive compulsive disorder. Live Twins define symmetry and is very, very satisfying to play, despite how little sense I'm sure that makes. To play against it though, yeah, nah. But trust me, you don't come to the Ghost Eagle channel for expert meta opinions. You come here to listen to a sideman cry about it. Extremely consistent one-card combos, and there are many of those one cards. Quick effect destruction, access to hand traps, and Kisi Kill draws them out. They can run limit 3s and econ. So yeah, it's strong in a rage-inducing sort of way where a board of Kisi Kill in set 3 is likely going to go down as one of the most infuriating sights going second for months to come. And 6,000 life points to boot from that skill Konami dropped on every character. It's a smart move there. I can finally use my main man Scud in ranked. But hey, that's a good example of a skill that supports what the deck is doing and isn't what the deck is doing. And it's another thing I appreciate about Live Twins in general. Their coincided release with Effect Veiler that can stop them dead in their tracks makes me think it's not that bad. However, should the deck have access to limit 3s? No. Should it have access to enemy controller? God, no. You know, I used to downplay that card a lot in the past. Yeah, no more of that. Econ is crazy. I like this deck, but I'm not gonna defend it. It's just designed for modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And by extension of that, it's just stronger than other things. It got off scot-free on the recent ban list unless you count the Envoy hit, which I guess. But like, look, it's hate the game, not the player type thing with this deck. Is it fair to hate Live Twins because they run IDP, a card not part of their archetype that they happen to have access to? I mean, yeah, but at the very least, the deck deserves respect for being pretty damn archetypal and can play without a skill. Get used to these girls, they're gonna be around. And like Mech Knights and Orcust, they're gonna start popping up in a lot of other stuff too, like Mech Knights, oh my god. Speaking of Orcust, I am in no position of authority to be talking about the power level of this deck, because I unapologetically clocked out for the entirety of its dominance. I literally never went against this deck at full power. And the prospect of doing so didn't exactly excite me about playing Duel Links either, so you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. But I've gone against Orcust Gandora enough times now to where I can tell you the skill is still bullshit. It's not really Orcust itself, its nerfs definitely hold it in check, especially after the most recent one. But I'm not surprised that Determination to Fight that I've been bitching about literally since it dropped is still doing its OP shenanigans on a meta level. Unapologetically, I hate this skill. Always have, and I always will until they neuter it to the level of one of Tyranno's skills. But since they didn't even blink at it in this latest skill rebalance, I'm left to believe that Konami devs don't even actually play this game. And Orcust literally just said,
Hey yo, Ding, you know what would help us instruments out here right now, bruh?
The mermaid.
Nah, bruh, a free board wipe before we even start our combos.
Again, don't get it twisted on the culprit here. I like Orcust for what it is. Again, like Live Twins, it's just designed for more modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's just inherently gonna be stronger than a lot of other things. But with its nerfs, it's just fine. Maybe even underpowered at this point. But the skill can burn in hell, I don't care. It was a bad idea then, it's a bad idea now. I can't believe they haven't balanced it. I mean, I can, I'm just pissed about it. I'm gonna get in trouble for this because I know a lot of people love Rokkets. In fact, I know people who say it's their favorite archetype of all time. But I don't like this shit to an extent. It's probably more of my utter disdain for Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, and yeah, we'll get to those gym rats, don't worry. And again, the deck's access to limit 3 powerhouses, and while not reliant on its skill necessarily, its skill is still a massive player that makes it feel a bit cheap at times. Or cards like Rocket Tracer that just inherently feel flawed in their design to me, because it disguises its cost of blowing up a card, but since it's a quick effect, you can use it on a card that's going to the grave anyway. Which means it doesn't really have a cost to do what it does. If anything, it's a massive 2-for-1 a lot of the time. However, I respect the strength of the deck and its capabilities of being an engine. Archetypal wise, I actually really like these cards. It's just what they're ending on and relying on outside of their archetype poisons the well a bit for me. It's kind of the same issues I have with Live Twins, even though I like them a little bit more. But they're probably the best Necrofusion users in the game's history, and I think that's pretty cool at least. You know what I said about Trickstars before my hiatus? I said, and yeah, I still pretty much feel the same way. They got light stage and a new skill within that time. It's definitely a lot stronger. They have debatable continued access to limit 3s, but I like a lot of what the deck does. The little burn damage is cute. Candina is a complete powerhouse, but certainly balanced, I think. It's just, once again, the way it's built leaves a lot to be desired. But really, man, it's fine to me. I think it's probably my favorite of the consistently tiered decks. But I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about calling this video the bad meta, so best of a bad family bunch to me. It's funny how human beings interpret everything differently. It's quite beautiful, to be honest, but we lose sight of that so often. Anyways, this is not a philosophy lesson. This is me saying I just don't get pendulum decks. Like, to be honest, I forget about them half the time, but I know to others, pendulums are their favorites. All they play, and maybe even the first thing that they think about when they think of Yu-Gi-Oh! What I'm trying to say is, I don't like Odd Eyes, not really. I really did not like Raging Pendulum up until its nerf, but I respect the deck. Please stay as the anti-meta threat you are, but when you are that deck, you are bound to be polarizing. You're the kid telling everyone else that their shit stinks. I know people that hate Odd Eyes more than any other deck, and I know people on the opposite end of that spectrum, but at the very least, it's a different kind of challenge than what you'd normally expect, and I'm assuming that dynamic, as well as the deck's bullshit price tag, fueled the animosity against it. That's like me. I love synchro summoning because that's what I learned first, and I have to remind myself that pendulum summoning is like that for a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, even if I feel like I'm too old for it. It's like, back in my day, you needed a tuner monster. Okay, maybe not that one though. I've had some fluctuating opinions on Tenyi. When I first started playing the game again, I hated this deck, but then I clocked, oh, of course I hate this deck because I'm still playing Burning Abyss. But when I really look at this, there's nothing fundamentally wrong or unfair about Tenyi. It's just very strong. And how many decks are this archetypal? Sometimes they run literally nothing but the archetype. And that's despite the fact that they have access to limit 3s. But frankly, they don't need them. They have their own protection built in. I see the argument that I kind of want to make about this deck being unfair, but I don't really think it is. Its ability to consistently summon monsters from the deck is pretty insane, but again, just kind of modern and strong. And it's considered the best deck by a lot of players in a meta now where there is no clear-cut winner on that. If I'm gonna throw any shade at it, I'm going after the tuner monster Adhara. I don't care, I hate this card. They really don't need it, and to me, it's really the only thing that pushes the deck to being maybe a little unfair. Because if you're gonna get a ton of strong protection, removal, and searching effects by banishing from the grave, the place where cards just go when you do combos, then you should at least lose those cards after you benefit off of them. But Adhara said, nah, we double dipping today, bruh. It's fine, I respect Tenyi, and that artwork belongs in the goddamn Louvre. But also, the auto win that Draco Berserker can be, you'd think it'd warrant a harder summoning condition. But nah, I mean, card's not exactly overpowered or anything, it's just kinda how Duel Links is now. Just damn, is he not the poster boy of the power creep in this game or what? Altergiest, man, from what I understand, this deck is loathed in other formats of the game, and yeah, I can see why it's on that bullshit. Konami at least had the foresight to prevent them from getting their alien hands on the Limit 3 gang, but even then, they're compromising a third Mellow Seek for at least one of them a lot of the time. This deck is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Equivalent of the Brazen Bull Torture, the true incarnate of Odeon's endless trap hell skill, and I hate this mannequin. Compulse on legs looks better suited for an advertising tactic for Aeropostale, and I'll leave it at that. What can I say? Another infuriating deck that sets 3 on turn 1 and tells you to have fun. Doesn't really do anything cool or interesting, it just pulls your teeth out one by one. What a lovely little cherry on top of this shit sundae. And Lunalight, right, a deck I have unreservedly bashed time and time again in my channel's past, regardless of its power level, and it's essentially at full power in the game now and extremely affordable. I have seen every opinion on the spectrum tossed around on this deck, people insisting it'll be tier 1 with its strength and accessibility to the player base. I don't really think so, bruh, but I at least want to say this deck is slept on way too much. I'm not even saying it's meta, but people that don't even consider it a contender ain't really with it. Ultimately though, how do I feel about this deck?
I don't really care. This deck can still get bent. I don't get the furry thing. Never have, never will. I'm sorry. Cards like Leo Dancer should not exist in Duel Links. They had to ban one of those, remember? And they make Leo consistently now. I don't care that it's not a meta strategy. It's just toxic. Whether it's tier 1 or never played at all, I will still not like it. And another thing. What the hell is Kaleido Chick even supposed to be? It looks like a chicken run reject action figure commissioned by Salvador Dali, for real. This deck can go kick it down loco in the 8th circle with Barbar and the boys where it belongs.
Well, that's gonna do it for this video. I'll try not to wait 15 eons to make my next one. Thank you to everyone that stayed patient with me. And if you want my opinion on rush duels, like whatever you want, but I think it's boring, and I will not make content on it. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video.